Quiet on set, please. And action. Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. In review today is Killers of the Flower Moon on 4K Blu-ray. Martin Scorsese's latest epic, Killers of the Flower Moon, makes its physical media debut on 4K Blu-ray courtesy of Italian distributor Eagle Pictures. Although this is an Italian release, the disc is very English friendly, allowing you to choose between English and Italian for the main menu, and also offering English subtitles and audio. But an important note and a word of warning for international viewers: both the 4K and Blu-ray discs are Region B locked, so unless you have a suitable player, this release is a no-go. But if you reside in Europe, Australia or the rest of the Region B territories, you should have no problem. I know this will come as a bit of a bummer for those outside of this region, but hopefully we'll get a wider physical release at some point in the future. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at the tech specs. It was shot on a range of different cameras, including a few different models of ARRI cameras using Kodak 35mm film, a Sony Cine Alta Venice for some of the low light and nighttime scenes, which were captured digitally in 4K, a Phantom Flex for the slow motion shots in the oil boom scene, and Scorsese's own personal 1917 Bell & Howell 2709, which was used for the newsreel footage. All cameras except the Bell & Howell predominantly used Panavision anamorphic T-series lenses, along with the occasional use of anamorphic Petzval lenses for the victim scenes. It's got a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is primarily 239:1, but also shifts to 133:1 for the newsreel footage. It's got English and Italian DTS 5.1 soundtracks with English, Italian and Chinese subtitles. The disc supports HDR10 and Dolby Vision with a full enhancement layer for the Dolby Vision grade. The HDR10 grading has a maximum content light level of 1000 nits and a maximum frame average light level of 163 nits. It's a 100GB disc. The average bitrate is 41.43 megabytes per second for the HDR10 base layer, with a further average 11.57 megabytes per second for the Dolby Vision full enhancement layer. The runtime is 206 minutes and it's rated 15. In regards to the picture quality, Eagle's 2160p transfer results in a strong and robust UHD presentation that effectively and faithfully reproduces director Martin Scorsese's vision, with only a few minor caveats along the way. With a large portion of the movie being shot on 35mm film, the image carries a very fine layer of organic grain, and for the majority this is rendered quite natural and even. But with the movie's lengthy 3.5-hour runtime, I was intrigued to see how the encode would perform being fitted onto a single 100GB disc. And when viewing in both HDR10 and Dolby Vision, thankfully for the most part it is quite competent and efficient, and considering the runtime, it's a pretty authentic reproduction of the 35mm grain structure. Taking a closer look over the film though, and with the disc's variable bitrate, I did notice a small number of instances when macro blocking can occur, and in certain highlights and in some of the brighter areas of the image, the layer of grain can get a little blocky. This shouldn't act as a deal breaker though, as it's not a severe issue, and in motion some people may not even pick up on this, but as a reviewer I thought it was worth mentioning. As for the detail levels, with the touch of natural filmic softness and the Panavision T-series lenses being detuned to reduce sharpness, it's not a razor sharp affair, but that's not to say there still isn't a vast amount of rich detail and clarity on offer, and the fine-grained structure and increase in resolution allows viewers to further appreciate the production design and the attention to detail that has been afforded with the historically accurate props, clothing pieces and the various settings. There's plenty of great detail to observe throughout the runtime, and the stunning cinematic shots of the Oklahoma landscapes are among the standouts, with lush vegetation and the wide open prairie plains. Then when things get more intimate with close-ups on the lead cast, skin textures are highlighted effectively, emphasising wrinkles, skin imperfections and facial hair, whilst also accentuating the fabric and material textures on the garments they are wearing, drawing attention to well-worn jackets, tailored suits, and the traditional clothing and jewellery pieces that the Osage people wear. Not all of the film has been captured on 35mm though, with some portions of the movie being shot digitally, primarily the low-lit and nighttime settings, which were captured using the Sony Cinealta Venice for its low light sensitivity and to manage time constraints when shooting dusk for night scenes. Not only do these sequences make for a slightly cleaner image, but they also result in great low light detailing, which the UHD reproduces effectively with strong black levels and good shadow separation. Though this movie may not strike people as a visual effects extravaganza, there is actually more CG than you may realise, with around 700 CG shots across 85 minutes of screen time. There's the more obvious elements, such as the large field of hundreds of oil rigs, the recreation of 1920s Fairfax, and the hundreds of cows surrounding the ranch. And then there's the less obvious ones, such as adding a hat to a character that wasn't originally wearing one, and even changing the page of the book that DiCaprio's character is reading. I think the team over at Industrial Light and Magic have done a great job of seamlessly blending these visual effects into the movie, and it's often so well done that much of it will probably go unnoticed. As for the colours, the film carries a natural colour palette, often featuring earthy greens, browns and beiges in exterior settings, intermixed with some warmer hues in interiors, with the odd splashes of bolder and more vibrant tones coming from some colourful Osage clothing pieces and a large crop fire. And then as the story unfolds into the latter stages, the palette turns slightly bleaker with desaturated tones and a harsher contrast. The application of HDR, whether viewed in HDR10 or Dolby Vision, has been tastefully implemented and doesn't make for dramatic change to the core look of the image, but rather a subtle enhancement and refinement to bolster the film's visual aesthetic. Taking a look at the gamut visualizations, which, to emphasise the use of the wider colour gamut, fully desaturates the pixels that fall within the standard BT709 gamut, confined inside the small triangle, and only leaves the pixels in the DCI-P3 and BT2020 gamuts in colour, which extend outside the small triangle. The wider colour gamut is used sparingly on this disc, showing up only in a handful of scenes, most notably with blue tones like on shop canopies and clothing pieces, with orange hues like the glow from a sunrise and the blazing flames from the crop fires, or in red shades, namely the back curtain in the radio show. As for the brightness, the HDR grading doesn't get much above SDR levels, and only displays a moderate increase in overall image brightness and a slight boost to certain highlights, such as interior lighting or natural sunlight, but these never really get much above 200 nits. In the same vein as the colour grading though, this is appropriate to the film's visual style and aesthetic, seemingly staying true to the director and cinematographer's creative intentions.
I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
See what about them?
See who's doing it.
Expecting a miracle to make all this go away. You know they don't happen anymore.
As for the audio, Eagle's UHD release of Killers of the Flower Moon is accompanied by English and Italian DTS 5.1 soundtracks, leading to one of the only few downsides to this release, as you may be aware that in its theatrical run, and on the Apple TV Plus digital stream, it's available with a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Being unfamiliar with how the object-based mix sounds, I'm unsure as to how much of a difference it offers, but considering the film is mainly dialogue-driven, I'm not sure there's much content that would make considerable use of the height channels, bar maybe some musical extension and light ambience, but when an Atmos track is available, it is still nice to have it included. Nevertheless, the English DTS 5.1 track is still a solid listen, packing a strong dynamic range not only by delivering appropriate punch when called for, but also by producing a good range of ambient effects as and when necessary. The surround channels are well utilised, offering pretty frequent rear channel extension, often populated with environmental ambient sounds such as rain, birds and other wildlife related noises, and the crowd hustle and bustle in the town, which all helps to better immerse the viewer in the story. The subwoofer output isn't the most deep and aggressive you'll hear, but with the nature of the film, there's no real need for it to be. Even so, the aftershock of a large-scale explosion and some of the punchy score elements all have a satisfying amount of weight and depth to them. Robbie Robertson's musical score is a standout in the mix, coming through with great clarity, blending elements of period folk music, blues and plenty of acoustic guitar, giving the film an earthy and grounded feel. Dialogue is rendered crisp and clear, and apart from the odd softer spoken line, is always easy to comprehend. And when you have chosen your desired audio track, the appropriate subtitles are automatically shown for the Osage language parts. Not every line of this dialogue is subs, but this is intentional and only shown when it's of great importance. I must say I was very pleased to see the English subtitles included, considering it's an Italian release. Kudos to Eagle Pictures for including this. To summarise, I'll give the picture a 9. Eagle's 4K Ultra HD release of Killers of the Flower Moon produces a strong 2160p image, and minor caveats related to the encoding noted and aside, the 4K disc is a clear winner over the 1080p Blu-ray and any digital streaming options, boasting superior detail and clarity levels, a better resolved grain structure, and a slightly more refined colour palette over the SDR grading. And I'll give the audio an 8.5. Although the inclusion of the Atmos mix would have been nice, the DTS 5.1 track still offers a satisfying experience, with some decent immersive qualities from the surround channels, clear and intelligible dialogue through the centre channel, and ample bass response from the subwoofer where necessary, all making for a surround sound mix that doesn't leave much room for disappointment. All in all, considering Apple's heavy involvement in funding and distributing the film, it's great to see that it's still managed to make its way onto the physical format, although I do hope it does get a wider Region 3 release in the future. But if you're a fan of the film and have a suitable Region B player, then this presentation does come recommended. So these are my thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon on 4K Blu-ray. Will you be picking this one up? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching guys, enjoy your movies. Bye!